The Breakfast Club. We got a special guest friend to the room.
One of my dogs, one of my favorite MCs of all time.
Killer Mike.
Mike Bigger, whatever you want to call him.
Whatever you call him.
Just don't call him Broken Ignorant.
No. How
What's
y'all
up,
doing?
sir? Good morning.
Let me get this gum out of my mouth.
I know, thank you, because I would have had to hand you some paper myself.
Thank you. Thank y'all for having me.
Absolutely. It's funny, since last week, it's two voices I really wanted to hear from. I wanted to hear from Mr. David Banner and yourself.
Thank you.
So what do you think about what's going on in Ferguson, Missouri?
Before you went there, I ran into him in the club last night. He was performing Run Your Jewels.
Run the Jewels.
Run the Jewels.
And I seen him and I said, you got to come by the show tomorrow. He was like, well, I'm leaving. I'm like, you got to come by the show. He was like, all right, whatever, I'm coming by.
He did. He did. Envy's the man. Last time people thought like me and Envy like won the man's like Envy's my man. 100%. I love him to death.
Why would they think that?
Just because we be going back and forth because he's a great devil's advocate. But man, I wasn't passing up the chance to come hang out at the Breakfast Club.
Word.
I think that if you really want to know my purest and rawest of thoughts,
of course we do.
I'd encourage you to go to my Instagram, Killer Mike GTO. It got picked up by Spin and Billboard, but I just wrote my thoughts. Okay. And at the end of the day, like my first thought is, we're all human beings. Like, I don't care what nationality you call yourself. I don't care what race you call yourself. You know, genetically, we all come from a small group of people that were indigenous to Africa that found their way out and some stayed and populated this great earth. And we are human beings. And if we've reached a level in this country where we lack the sympathy and the empathy to sympathize with a child that lied dying on the ground face down in the summer heat for 4 hours, if we lack empathy and all we have is apathy to give that, then we've lost a bit of our humanity. And that's the most troubling thing, I think. And my second thought was Billboard contacted me and asked me to further expand on my thought. And it was hard. Like, I didn't want to do it at first. I had been partying with Envy, drinking champagne and doing stuff I shouldn't have done. And while remaining totally chaste and faithful to our wives. But I got
ratchetness and righteousness.
You gotta know that. It was righteous ratchetness.
Yeah.
But I popped up about 4 a.m. and I just, my father was a police officer when I was young. And I just wrote that, really what I'm disgraced by is that Americans have gotten to the point where we're so comfortable choosing sides. Well, I'm black middle class, I'm white middle class, I'm working class, I'm poor. We've gotten conditioned to pick these boxes to the point that we don't see the brutal and real truth before us. I don't care if you argue that kid was a thug. I don't care if you argue black on black crime. I don't care any of the senseless arguments you have that you argue. An American's constitutional rights to due process were eliminated with those 6 bullets. I am an American. I am promised a certain amount of rights by the Bill of Rights in the United States Constitution. And any time a policeman puts me in a chokehold and ignores me saying I can't breathe and I die in front of cameras in front of other Americans on the New York streets, or a child dies in the streets of a suburb of St. Louis, all of our rights are affected. It makes all of our rights easier to trample on. And I think that as Americans, if we don't pay very close attention to the rights that we're losing, it's now easier for a policeman to come in your home. I could be in your home that you pay for. Cops come knock on the door. And there was a time when they would say, is the homeowner here? Can we come in? And you had the option without warrant. They didn't have a warrant to say yes or no. Now, just by me being in your house, I could say yeah and invite them into your house. So that is a loss of constitutional right. That's a step backwards in terms of the rights that we're awarding in this country. And I travel the world. Like, I know a lot of people, you might not hear me on 105 every day, but I do about 180 shows a year, and I travel the world. Everyone in the world finds the rights in this country amazing, the freedoms that you have, and we take them so for granted. So my outrage is first and foremost at our lack of empathy and humanity, our lack of sympathy for this mother and this child and these social conditions that make children, not just black children, because kids who are skateboarders get harassed by cops, that make children an enemy. And furthermore, I'm appalled by our apathy as Americans that we're not all up there fighting for our constitutional rights. I'm encouraged by artists like Tef Poe and Rocky Knuckles in St. Louis because they're on the ground providing footage that they're not showing you. Rachel Maddow talked last night about they've essentially made a no-fly zone for media. Media usually is able to have a helicopter to shoot down to show what's happening, and you could have saw Rachel Maddow said the cops were pushing protesters into other cops, which created an element of tear gas and violence, right? Tef, Poe, and Rocky, the only guys down there on ground level showing, well, there's many others, but showing that there's a diverse group of people. There are Buddhists down there. There are Holocaust survivors down there. There are working class white people. This isn't just a black people cop problem.
Absolutely not.
This is an American people cop problem. So I want to thank the people of Ferguson, thank the people of St. Louis, thank the MCs down there, and, you know, thank y'all for having me up.
Let me ask you a question. Since you said your dad was a police officer, now, you know, sometimes I get to a point where I feel like it's hard for police officers.
It is.
Because, you know, at the same time, like, we want to go home to our family. They want to go home to their family.
Absolutely.
But they don't know what a person's intentions is. Like, you know, you look at a case that happened in Jersey City where this guy ran into, I don't know if it was a CVS or Walmart. Drugstore.
Beat up the
security guard up, took his gun. Waited for the cops to come outside. When the cop came, shot the cop dead in the face, killed him. Boom.
He wanted to kill the cop.
Wanted to kill the cop. So, it gets to a point where it's a sticky situation.
Yeah.
What happened in Ferguson was totally disrespectful. You don't shoot no unarmed man 6 times.
Absolutely.
But, in the case of, let's say, the young man in Staten Island, right? And, it's hard because I don't know. I'm not a cop. Yeah, Eric Garner. I'm not a cop, so I don't know the holds. But I do know if I'm a police officer and I got to take you down, there's no way I can take you down without doing whatever I have to do to take you down. So it becomes a funny system because I can't take you down, Big Mike. I can't just grab you by your hand and say, get on the damn floor. I got to bite you, grab you, do whatever I got to do.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I sympathize with police officers. Not only was my father a police officer.
And no difference, my dad was a police officer, too.
Absolutely. I'm mentored by Andrew Young, who was the mayor of Atlanta at the time where policemen still had revolvers, and they were fighting against semi-automatic weapons because they needed them. It was the middle of the crack era. A good friend of mine, who's a writer, one of the most beloved R&B writers in the world, Jasper Cameron, his father was murdered. His father was a police officer that was killed. So you can imagine how this struck my household. So I understand the need for policing. I understand the need for black cops. People, oh, no, black people need to be cops. I'm like, I prefer to be policed by black cops. What I'm saying, though, is the same way lawyers and judges and politicians are held to a higher standard based on you taking an oath. No one came to your dad and said, I'm going to make you be a cop. No one came to my dad and said, but they had to understand when I become a cop, I have a greater social responsibility to uphold the constitutional rights of these citizens. In enforcing the law, their rights. I'm not saying 4 of those small cops could have took Eric Garner down. What I am saying is if it took 15, you deserve the call. He did not have a weapon.
15 was a little too much.
He was not charging you.
Right.
He was actually in retreat mode. There was a wall behind him, and there was a group of people standing around him saying, no, you have the wrong guy. I watched something on YouTube that popped up of a kid who was walking by a Palestinian protest, black kid with a book bag on, right? A mall cop got it wrong, maced him instead of the person that was the aggressor. All right? It was a pro-Israel person that was the aggressor. The Palestinian people were protesting. Right. A black kid just walking by.
Just walking through the mall with his book bag on.
Black kid got maced. Black kid didn't resist. Held the kid's arm the whole time, and the kid is just like, please get this out of my eye. Remain calm, remain professional. Was the upstanding black young man that I love to see, but it pained me because I saw him, even if it was this marginal, he was being brutalized. There were people around him that obviously weren't from his peer group. Little old white lady like, no, you have the wrong person. They still, with mace, walked that child into their possibly giving him an arrest record. Now I'm just saying, if you don't have good common sense, you shouldn't be a policeman on foot patrol. Right. If you don't have great common sense, you shouldn't be a policeman in command. Right. So is it harder for policemen? Absolutely. Are you held at a higher standard? Absolutely. Are you the only civil servant with the power of life and death immediately in your hand? Absolutely. And that requires more responsibility.
But it gets to a point where the police officer doesn't respect the civilian, and the civilian don't respect the police officer. So it is always going to be a conflict. Same reason why when most people get pulled over, they're scared.
Yeah, no. That's not true.
Most people are.
That's not true. None of my white friends are scared when we get pulled over. I've gotten pulled over with open containers. Oh, I remember we were being driven around by, the promoters just put somebody on you. We were in D.C. Little white girl was driving us around. She did 3 back-to-back U-turns. We were burning in the car. We was like, oh, my God. She said, don't worry, I'm white. And I'm not making this a racial thing, but I'm just saying, no, everybody doesn't panic when police get behind them. Some people pull over and get angry and yell at the cops because they're not accustomed to that. And those people are the people who represent a social class that is known. If you kill them and leave them laying in the middle of the street, somebody got to get some answers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, you talking about the driver, the white driver?
Yeah.
Okay. So you believe in white privilege?
I don't believe in white privilege. I know white privilege exists. And it's okay because I understand. I'm not saying it's okay for it to exist. I understand it exists, and I'm not mad at white people about it.
Yeah, that's my mentality.
But I would challenge more white people to listen to other white people like Tim Weiss. I would challenge more white people to accept, like, all right, look, I accept that because I'm a big guy, when I get on the elevator, people are going to have to move. Yeah. You know what I mean? People don't
nobody wants to sit by you on the plane.
Yeah, I can get a seat by myself because nobody really wants to sit by the big guy. You know what I mean? So I have certain privileges that come with being. Everything ain't bad about being a tall, fat guy. But I just want to tell white people out there, like, I don't have no issues with you, but like, be honest, and even in being honest in your convictions, advocate for the people you say you like and love. Oh, I got a black friend. Well, advocate for them.
Right.
You know, when you see something wrong, speak up about it. Because if I don't have people from the power group that are on my side, like that kid who's getting locked up in the mall, then I just become another statistic. And my white friends don't want me to be that, and I don't want them to walk around feeling guilty about white privilege all day.
I'm glad you said that, too, because I always tell people, don't deny white privilege, but don't deny the privileges that you have as a black person either.
I do have some privilege.
Because I feel like we have an inferiority complex when we should have a superiority complex. That's how I was brought up. I was brought up thinking you a god, you a king,
Absolutely.
You can achieve anything you put your mind to.
But guess
that's
what?
how I was brought up.
Even if we aren't, I'm an American, and I'm due my constitutional rights.
Word up.
See, all the other stuff is semantics, man. How I feel about myself, I feel I'm the Asiatic God, man. I'm the ruler of the world. I feel a lot of cool things about myself. But at the end of the day, if I'm a homeless guy, schizophrenic on Skid Row, I am promised by this country and the Bill of Rights and the U.S. Constitution inalienable rights. And all I'm saying is that's what I'm fighting for. That's what I'm advocating for. The shameful part of being an American today is not that police brutality exists. It's not that these separations between the races exist. That's not the shameful part. The shameful part is that none of us are fully living our constitutional rights because we're all protecting our little ones. Like the black people, we got to protect our right never to be in slavery. My white friends, some of them are protecting their Second Amendment rights, which more black people need to wake up to. If we don't all enjoy all our rights, then we all aren't living the full American experience. And I only say this because I travel outside these United States.
Right.
And if you've never traveled outside these United States, you don't know how great a country you in.
Absolutely.
Like my black friends that be complaining stuff, I say, hey, bro, I hear you. I love you to death. But I got some homies in London, I got homies in Denmark, I got homies in Africa that would love to trade places with you. They would outwork you and you would see success in 5 to 10 years. Now, we come with some systemic stuff. We come with a bunch of trash thrown on us, a bunch of inferiority stuff thrown on us. But all I'm telling you is it doesn't matter. If you're willing to apply yourself and work hard and fight for the same things, we can start to equate this stuff. And at the end of the day, every American is due process, and you are due to have your constitutional rights honored. So stop arguing the race thing and start arguing that.
You got to be careful, Killer Mike, because you know what they'll say. They say you one of them new blacks.
I don't even know what that means.
Yeah.
I don't. You can call me whatever you want to, but I done studied with the Guards and Earths. I done studied with Nation Islam. I done studied with the Moors. I done studied under Marcus Garvey's philosophies and Noble Ali. Like my thing is, if you want to call me new black, you can call me whatever you want to. W.E.B. Du Bois called the Honorable Marcus Garvey a Klan member, and Marcus Garvey said that if it makes my people better, if it makes my people stronger, if it makes us independent of reliance upon government and a reliance upon white people, then call me a Klan member indeed.
Well, let me go back. The Second Amendment, if for somebody who's watching that don't know, is the right to bear arms.
No, don't tell them. Look it up. Like there's Google. There's Google. When I wrote
some people just they
No. You got to use your phone for more than World Star, man. You got to use your phone for more than just watching.
Sometimes you got to tell them. Now, let me ask you a question. Now, and I'm not saying this is right. But I'm saying I understand.
Absolutely.
In Ferguson, you have a lot of people looting, a lot of people tearing stuff up.
You do?
I don't say it's
You
right.
had one night of that, or you have a lot of it?
It was a couple nights.
They say it's a small minority.
Well, let's call it what it is, though. See, because a lot means, this is what, been a 10-day process at this point? A lot means 8 of 10.
Yeah.
But 2 of 10 is not a lot.
Yeah.
That sounds like 2 isolated nights.
Okay, well, you say 2, and people are saying it's so bad, and I don't believe in looting, but I understand. And the reason I say that is I look at Sean Bell.
Yes.
We did the peaceful protest, and we did it by the book, and we felt there was no justice.
Absolutely.
Then we look at Trayvon Martin. We did it peacefully.
Absolutely.
We tried to come together as a family.
We did.
We all wear hoods. And what happened? It felt like the system let us down.
It did.
You know what I mean? So it gets to a point where I understand the anger, because it seems like every time we do it by the book, nothing ever happens.
You
You know, it's kind of like your kid. You tell your kid, go sit in the corner, go sit in the corner. He don't listen. But then when you smack him on the back of his head, he goes and sit in the corner.
What Dr. King say that riots are the voice of the unheard. If you don't want to have riots, start addressing real community issues. Like, everybody didn't riot about Michael Brown laying there dead. Some people rioted because they hadn't found jobs in 3 years. Some people rioted because the police had just messed with them yesterday. You know, a riot is a tantrum. It's a temper tantrum.
Right.
It's a child that's been unheard. You know, it's the unrecognized voice of the voiceless. It's people saying, we've been saying this. So I understand how that happens. But my thing is, what happens after that happens? You know, because if we look at South Africa 20-something years ago, after Nelson Mandela was freed, one of the first things they did was have a Truth and Reconciliations Committee. And what was the Truth and Reconciliations Committee? That gave offenders and victims an opportunity to stand before one another and say, this is what I've done. I have murdered this man's family. I would like to sincerely apologize. I would like that truth to be known. Some people did get jail time, some people didn't, but it was finally put in the air that these atrocities have happened, and an opportunity to forgive, to learn, or to move on was really given. Now, I'm not saying South Africa's perfect, but what I'm saying is we're living in a country where truths and reconciliations don't happen. The last step of Kingian nonviolence, I studied Kingian nonviolence when I was in high school. The last step is reconciliation, resolution and reconciliation. If I'm not trying to win a fight against the police, we need the police. I'm trying to get the police to police better.
Right.
When I police, the same police that police the community were over police athletic league boxing. When I was young, the same police, when I was young, the same policemen that policed Adamsville were some of the coaches.
Yeah, they ran PAO, absolutely.
That doesn't happen anymore. If you have a group of police who don't identify with the community that they police, if they don't coach basketball, baseball, get out, walk, and talk, then that's not a community of police. That's a community under siege.
But see, the fact that Barack Obama is into Ferguson is not because it was a bad thing that happened. It's because of the riots. Because the young man that they choked out in Staten Island, right?
Staten Island.
Absolutely.
You know what? That's going to go under the rug. You know why?
Absolutely.
Because Ferguson is so much bigger and they're rioting.
But this is my problem with that, too.
Absolutely.
Why do we always look to Barack? Barack's the president. What about the local government? What about your mayor? What about the governor of the state?
Well,
it should go through them before it gets to Barack.
Well, in this case, it's been shown statistically that blacks are targeted. Blacks are targeted more. If your police chief has shown himself to be corrupt from the beginning by not naming the officer, by then leaking some bogus tape of a kid shoplifting, you show me 10 kids, I'll show you 7 kids that probably shoplifted. The police chief is a direct reflection of the mayor's office, because that's who appoints your police chief. I would say this whole sham's corrupt too, and I would go directly to federal. When Martin Luther King and John Lewis and Andy Young and Hosea Williams were marching, they weren't marching just to challenge local municipalities to change. They were getting local municipalities to show that they were abusive so the feds would intervene.
Absolutely.
So people are calling to Barack Obama, some out of ignorance because they don't know that there are other steps, but the smart people that are there, the people that have organized before, understand that I am potentially dealing with a corruption that has corrupted the police chief, the prosecutor, and the mayor. So I need to circumvent that and go directly to the federal leg of our government, because things seem to get fair. Like, black people have your rights today, because at some point Lyndon B. Johnson, who was the president, said, we got to intervene. This is getting bad.
Absolutely.
So I understand why you call for Barack Obama, but with that said, your president is still the president. He's still a federal employee. You do need to be vigilant. And this is why I always tell people, vote in your local elections. Your local elections are more important than any other presidential election that'll ever be in your life, because the local people are the people who direct you directly. I own a barbershop, my wife and I. We own a swag shop in Atlanta. My barbershop is beautiful. Art on the wall, music playing, kids get free Hot Wheels when they come, celebrities in and out of there. But barbershops have such a notoriously grimy just reputation now. I was trying to get in a historically black area called the West End. I was trying to get in the West End and literally just got told no. Like, we don't want no more barbershops. And I'm like, well, this is different. It's a swag shop. Shade, washing, and grooming. We sell stuff. It's different. Celebrities come through. I had to get on the phone with a city councilman who put me in touch with the landlords, and everything changed in 24 hours.
Wow.
When I get home, I go look at 2 new buildings, see which building you want. We'll potentially sell you this building. But it's only because I know who my city councilman is. I donate time. I donate resources. So get involved in local politics, and you can change your community. It's no way Ferguson should be like Douglasville, Georgia. Douglasville, Georgia, right next to Atlanta, is over 60% African-American, not one black judge in the whole county.
It seems like the civil rights have been getting violated. People's civil rights have been getting violated in Ferguson for so long. How do you think it got to this point to where nobody was complaining because of what you just said?
Apathy.
Okay.
You're not voting. You're not involving yourself in grassroots organizations. And, like Envy said, it worst come to worst, riot. Now that you rioted, they listening. So what happens next? Now, what happens next? What are you going to do in Ferguson to ensure that better policing happens? What is the police force going to do to make sure better policing happens? Because we're not going to change the fact that you got police. You got police, but how do we better engage? The woman who taught me how to organize, Alice Johnson out of North Chicago, she had organized coal miners in West Virginia. She had been on Andrew Young's cabinet in terms of organizing when Mayor Shirley Franklin, who was a mayor of Atlanta, also was still the city manager. She taught me that there's always something. There's always, your end of the story is not all it. So you have to get the whole. She now works with the Atlanta City Police on community affairs. When they had Occupy Atlanta in a park in Atlanta, they also had a hip-hop concert that same day. So the cops were finna come in and rush the Occupy kids, but it was a bunch of moms and kids there that was just there to see Dollar Boy.
Word.
So the mayor called me out, went out, talked to the hip-hop people like, yo, we need to close this down because they're going to come in there. Went and talked to the Occupy kids like, I know y'all want to get arrested. Y'all going to get arrested. I promise y'all going to get arrested. But you got to make sure these mothers and kids are not in the way of getting arrested. And everything got worked out. But had it not been for Alice, who I met working with gang members and street kids to organize against martyr cops or the trained cops that were beating up kids, if it hadn't been for her now not working with us, but working on the other side with cops and Chief George Turner, peaceful things wouldn't have happened that day. Mothers and kids could have possibly got trampled by Atlanta City Police, and then the police wouldn't have known because they didn't know a concert was happening there. So for me, man, you need to be working in your community. You need to be working in an alliance somehow with your local police force to figure out better policing. And people who vote, people who are active, take care of your own communities. I've grown rather tired of people saying to me, well, why are you so worried about Ferguson? No one's worried about Chicago. And I've said that's a lie. Amina Matthews is worried about Chicago. She's a daughter of Jeff Fort. Jeff Fort is the leader of the VLs. Like, how you going to tell me ceasefire's not active in Chicago? No, you're not active in Chicago.
I think the problem with that is, because I'm one of those people that would say those things too, but I think...
and that's one of the few things we disagree on, but we strongly disagree
But I think it's the media. The media doesn't give it the light. Like, of course, there's people out there protesting. There's people out there active on the ground in Chicago all the time. But you don't see people in an outrage. Just regular, everyday people like they all over Ferguson, tweeting about it, sending pictures about it.
But it's not the same thing. You don't see Mexicans in an outrage. The Mexicans killing each other in East L.A. You don't see white people in the Appalachian Mountains. Like, you killing people within 10 miles of you is pretty normal. Now, I'm not saying it's right.
It's different, though, Mike.
No, I do know it's different, but I know this. In Ferguson, an American's constitutional rights to due process died and drained out on the street.
So you think that's greater?
It's not about greater.
To me, a senseless murder is a senseless murder no matter who's the culprit.
No. It's different. It's different when it's government sponsored.
I don't know, man.
No, it's definitely
because these police officers are paid to protect us, and they have a job to do.
Exactly.
And if they don't have any respect for us, it's hard for us to respect each other. When the police officers don't have any respect and they're teaching you every day that you're not worth anything and treating you like you're not even a citizen, how are we supposed to respect each other? And if something happens,
how am I supposed to... respecting my fellow man is based on whether or not a cop respects me?
No, morally, you're right. I'm not saying morally you're wrong. On a moral basis, I think it's despicable that black men are still murdering each other in Chicago.
Of course it is.
I think it's despicable after 60 years, we still have a gang proliferation problem. But to be honest, in the last 20 years, homicides have decreased. Chicago in 1994 was a lot more unsafe.
Yeah, it was like 900 here. Now it's about 500.
But still a lot less, though. Yeah. Still a lot less. But what I'm saying is, if you pay a government official to keep the peace, police officers are peace officers, and they begin murdering citizens, that is far worse. And I don't mean worse in terms of one life is more than the other. What I mean is, not only do I have to deal with now the pressures of us as human beings getting so off kilter that we can hurt one another, now I can't trust the government that we both have entrusted to see over us to be safe.
So as a black man, who do I trust? If I got to worry about my own people,
but we don't,
and I got to worry about the people that protect and serve me, who do I worry about?
No. What I'm saying is, if you really worry, we worry about each other, and we try our best to take care of each other. And I know you do that.
Absolutely.
And I know I've done that, and I know Envy does that, and I know Angela does that, and I think that's all we can do and more. But in reference to the police, and in reference to government abusing you, that has to be taken care of quickly and decisively, because we have a U.S. Constitution. And that is in direct opposition to the U.S. Constitution, and we have to fix that in the immediate. And then we can get back to fixing Chicago. But if we get to the point where we're allowing our government to slaughter us, they'll come into a block like Chicago eventually and say, you know what, do away with them all.
What do you think? Malcolm X said that if we don't appreciate each other, then we can't expect anybody else to appreciate us. If we don't have unity amongst each other, then we can never be equal with somebody else.
I agree. And I think black people in particular have a lot of work to do. We need to get quiet after this protest. We need to stop talking about what we're going to do. We need to stop marching and stop singing. And we need to go somewhere and plot, plan, strategize, organize, and mobilize. We need to do the same thing the Japanese did after the fallout of World War II. We need to figure out which way our community is going. We need to pick a way, and we need to go. We need to send these boys that aren't working to trade school. And I'm not giving you some cool life advice. My son didn't do well in high school. I told him I was not going to pay for college out of my pocket. I own a barbershop. I just sent him to trade school. He's going to take college courses. As he learns how to be a barber, he will come out, learn how to run a shop, possibly own a shop, and he can finish college as he wants to. You know, and I'm giving you the same advice as a father I give to any other father. But with that said, your government does not have the right to murder you. And if your government is in the murder business, then you must do one or two things. You must rebel and change that government, or you must leave. So what is going to be? You're going to leave America, or you're going to make America give you what she promised you. And that's your constitutional rights.
Absolutely. I just really feel like you got to look at it all in its totality.
I'm not saying you don't, but you have to, again, Charlamagne, because this is one of the few things I disagree with you on. I'm promised constitutional rights as an American, and I'm not going to waver from that. You're not going to rob me of my constitutional rights. See, it's different if you, as a white man, and I, as a black guy, we get in a fight, you kill me, we can take that into a court of law. Hopefully they won't Zimmerman you. You know, hopefully they'll see some justice in it if you were really wrong. But beyond that, when you pay your government, when you pay your taxes, your sales tax, your state tax, your income tax, when you pay them, they have to be held to a higher court, because I'm entrusting you with a life and death decision. No other government agency has that except a policeman. The power of life and death in their hands. So if you don't hold them to a higher standard, you get what you now have in Ferguson, the ability to slaughter an innocent American, black or white. Because, you know, it ain't just a black boy. A white boy was killed, too. I forgot where.
Dallas.
But for having his headphones on.
Yeah.
So it ain't just a black issue. I don't ever want y'all to think I'm just on some old pro-black soapbox. This is all about the black man, the cops. No, I'm talking as an American.
Absolutely.
As an American, I am truly afraid for us right now, because all of our rights are open for abuse with the blood that leaked out of that child. All your rights went right down the street with his blood.
Yeah, like Martin said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere.
Absolutely.
All across the board.
Well, we appreciate you joining us this morning. I love when you come through, and I know when this incident happened and I seen you last night, it was just like it was God telling me, bring Mike up here.
Thank you.
I got one more question, Lyric.
What up?
Do you think that regular folks should look to celebrities to be the voices in times like this?
Well, I can say, man, I penned my words twice, and it seemed to help people.
Right.
And I've also been an advocate in the community since I was 15 years old, when I didn't know if I was going to be a rapper or what. In matters of, I saw people get ruffled up about Tip and Nelly making some comments. I really respect those brothers for getting off the bench and being willing to say something, whether people agree with them or not. Because celebrities don't have to. I heard Fat Joe say one time, he said, I'm out here trying to get people to vote because I think it's important for the community. I'm rich. This stuff don't really bother me in the same way, but I'm out here for the community. So if a celebrity cares enough, I think you should listen. That don't mean you have to take their advice. That don't mean they're right, but we're all human beings. You know, some celebrities are out of whack, and I think you know they're out of whack, but I'm not going to tell you not to listen to T.I., and I know the police are listening to Ted Nugent.
Right.
You know, who's Ted Nugent? Look him up. He got more guns than T.I. did. You know, he's all for hunting and killing and shooting things, too. You know, he's a wild man. So for me, I don't see how you can be in a society where celebrities do not have an opinion, because I wouldn't want an empty celebrity to look up to.
Absolutely.
You know.
Well, once again, we appreciate you coming, Killer Mike.
So our resident political expert,
Absolutely.
Hood General.
I'm dropping off what's name too, a remix that all about the money.
All
remix.
about the money.
Yep, I got it. We're gonna get that on in the mix this morning.
Man, love and respect. Thank y'all so much, Breakfast Club. Man, Envy,
Yes,
Charlamagne, Yee, love y'all.
And if you like this interview, check out his music. That's why he's one of my top 5 favorite MCs of all time. Okay.
Killer Mike, it's the Breakfast Club. Good morning.